Okay, rolling. Yeah. What's your name?
Rosalie,
What's your name?
and I'm Joanne. I'm the oldest one.
Yeah, your sisters, right?
Yes,
All
we're
right.
sisters.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1940.
Okay. What about you,
I was
Rosalie?
born in 1944.
Okay. So we're going to hear about what it was like growing up in rural Missouri with no water and no electricity. Okay.
Well, we always had water because we had a cistern that caught the rainfall, the roof, and then drained into the cistern. So we had a pump in the kitchen that we could use for like washing.
Okay.
It wasn't, fit to drink. And then we had a well outside close to the house that we drew the drinking water.
Okay.
And I remember quite well when we got electricity, and when we got electricity, one of the first things that we got was hot water, running hot water. And so we could take a bath finally in the basement in the tub where we had the hot water running in.
Okay.
And so that was we just thought that was great to have that. And I remember the day that we had electricity turned on. I was probably in the second grade. It was 1947.
47. Okay.
And my dad came and got me at school. And I never will forget driving over the hill. We lived down the hill and up the hill where our home house was. And the lights in every room in the house were on. And it just looked like, I'd never seen that before in our house. It was great. So,
Right.
Well, we had seen lights because the town of Bolivar, which was about 18 miles away, had electricity long before we did. And before we had electricity, we always took the newspaper. And I have lots of memories of my dad after he had worked all day, sitting with a kerosene lamp and reading the paper. I remember very well the kerosene lamp.
oh, I do too. Yes.
And prior to that, in the summer, we would put a tub out on a porch and let the water warm up, and we would take turns taking a bath in that out on that porch because we lived out on a farm and there weren't other people around. And we always raised turkeys. From the time Mom and Daddy raised turkeys, even by the time Joanne was born. And so to do that, we drew water out of the well. And Joanne and I, when we were pretty young, carried 3 to 5 gallon buckets of water to those brooder houses to water the turkeys.
And I think sometimes in the summertime, Daddy had a big tank that he went to the creek and got water to use for the turkeys.
He figured out an gas motor on that he could stick this hose that was about that big around in the creek, and it would pump the water into that. And he even probably made the wagon that had a big rusty looking barrel on it. But yeah, he could go around and put water in the troughs that he had made. And we had the old crank phone, the wall phone, that there were about 8 or 9 people on our party line. And our ring was a long and 3 shorts. And we had that until we were in high school, maybe even when she was in college. And so whenever you started dating in high school, anytime that phone rang, you'd hear all these other receivers go up listening. They always knew who or what or, where, whatever. Now, it was good if you had a problem, you could call and say, because it was definitely party line. And our dad was real instrumental in getting electricity to our county and also the dial phones. And So that was a good thing.
Now, what was it? Were people afraid of getting electricity for some reason? What's
Well,
the
it was the uncertainty of it. Number one, they had to put these poles up on your land. And I'm pretty sure they either rented, do you know, Victor, did they rent to build, or you got, I'm sure the landowners got something. It's maybe called an easement or something, but they had to give approval. Well, they were afraid it'd kill their cattle, you know, the electric, it's kind of like people are about the wind farms. I mean, that's the nearest I can think of. And Joanne was real little when before she started school, and our mother had already taught elementary school a couple of years.
As well as Granny, our grandmother,
What's Granny's name?
Krista Wainscott.
And so she basically homeschooled Joanne, which Joanne was smart. And so she could read and probably do algebra by the time she went over to English. Well, she was. And it was a one-room school. We had a girls' outside toilet and a boys' outside toilet.
And when the bell rang, everybody was supposed to stop playing so you could go to the outside bathroom before classes started. And how I got hit in the head with the baseball bat was, the bell had rung, and so I was running for the outdoor bathroom, and the boys hadn't stopped playing, and we swung just as I came around the corner.
And this school was 3 miles from our house. And nobody had cell phones.
In the 40s, no cell phones?
And so there was a family that lived an eighth of a mile practically from the school. So when she got hurt, our teacher sent somebody to their house to have them call Daddy. Okay, I was in probably the second, or maybe I was in the first grade, because Mr. Katzler, and I only had him in the first grade. So I'm at my desk crying. And so the teacher, Mr. Katzler, came over, and it's like, she's gonna be okay, because he had her laying down in what was called the cloakroom, bleeding profusely, because you had like 13 stitches in that. And he said, your daddy's coming. I said, I know, but I have to walk home by myself. I wasn't at all worried about her. I didn't want to walk home by myself. He said, well, you can go with him. So they drove her into Bolivar and Max. Leonard didn't kill her, but anyway, but we all played together, and we had things called pie suppers, where the girls took a plate that had sandwiches and grapes and stuff, and then boys bid on that, and that was a fundraiser for the school. And we'd have a little program with it, and so that was.
Was that a sign of interest in somebody if they bought your pie?
Yes, it was, definitely. They probably wanted to be your boyfriend.
That's how Daddy met my mother.
It is, exactly.
She, you know, back then, women couldn't be married and teach. And so, and they often referred to him as the school marm. If you've ever read books from them, that's what they referred to him. So one of Mama's cousins was helping when her school had the pie supper. And Daddy had kind of had his eye on Mama, but another woman kind of had her eye on Daddy. And one of her good anyway, it was one of Mama's cousins who was helping, and she said, do not tell anybody my number, because they didn't say whose it was. It was
Go by the number.
yeah. So Daddy offered this cousin of Mama's a quarter or something to get Mama's pie. Even the teacher brought I don't know if it was, because some people did just bring a pie rather than a plate. So Daddy ended up buying it, and the crowd kept saying, where's the school marms? you know, white pie or whatever. And I've heard Mama say maybe Daddy made 75 cents, or I mean, she talked about. Of course, we're talking. She probably was making $4 a month. And the other, I don't know if you know this, but typically the teacher went and stayed in the school district all week with one of the board members. And Eva taught over at Goodson. And Mama stayed over at, and Granny Wainscott, Uncle Chester took her to the school, and so that meant Daddy and Granddad and Uncle Chester kind of backs during the week. Granny fixed the meal for the kids, in addition to teaching 8th grade.
She fixed them a hot lunch, and sometimes maybe breakfast like oatmeal.
And built the fire,
Yeah, she did. And she had to build the fire and have it warm. I mean, there were no such things as teachers' aides and.
and you know, there was a hand pump there at Ingles, and I think we could drink that water.
Yes,
I'm
we
sure we could wash our hands there, but we probably didn't. Yeah. And we all took our lunch. By the time we went, we didn't live in the poorest area of Polk County, I didn't think. I mean, there was some poor ones, but.
We lived 3 miles from school. We went to Ingles School, and Dad usually took us to school in the morning. But we nearly always walked home unless the weather was bad. There was a couple of neighbors close to the school that we could stay till somebody had time to come and get us. But we walked, and part of it was on the graveled highway. And a lot of kids came to school barefooted. We always had, I never remember going barefooted to school. I never did like to go barefooted, period. So,
What's your son's,
anyway, one of the things I remember about not having electricity is how quiet the house was at night. There's just, you know,
And
it was
dark.
just, and dark, it was quiet and dark. And, you know, like Rosalie said, we had to fill up the lamps with kerosene. And a lot of times one of us got sent out to get the kerosene out of the round tank that we had out in the,
He's not here.
almost in the yard.
He's
Bring
not
it
here,
back in.
but he's here.
So,
He's banned thing.
and we had a wood cook stove.
They did
We,
get back to what was over anyway.
another
Make a long story longer.
canned and
She said,
heated water on that wood cook stove until we got an electric stove. An electric stove and a refrigerator were the first 2 appliances that we bought after we got electricity, before we even had a bathroom. We didn't have an indoor bathroom until about 1956 or something.
I said, well, he's
Yeah,
not.
because I was over at Polk
She said, it
School.
doesn't matter.
I mean, I remember when we got it. That's when we really added on
They
the
can do anything.
living room with the fireplace and all that.
We got that before we got the living room,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was in high school when we got
I
that
think it's
thing.
great.
So, anyway, it was, you know, just doing the laundry was an all day job. And my memory of doing laundry was we had one of those,
various machines that have.
you had a tub here and then 2 tubs here, and then there was a wringer. And so you wash the clothes in the wash side,
Machines are
and
all
then you
connected between different
run them,
casinos.
put through the wringer, and they went into a rinse water, and then we had a second rinse water. So we rinsed them twice, then we hung them outside.
Or fill a Olympic size.
And that took all day, and you can imagine, we started with the white
Blindfold
clothes,
yourself and dive in.
and then
kids' clothes.
the kids' clothes, and then ended up with the dirty clothes.
That's your
The
Like
dirty
Daddy's
clothes
ones.
last.
Mine.
Oh, my, yeah.
They're 18 minutes away, Joshua is.
So,
If you see it on like the top, it's multi-million, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
it was
Yeah.
you know, I never remember feeling like that we didn't,
You wonder how they can
that we were living in
keep up
poverty
with
or
those.
anything, but I'm sure people would think that now.
Well,
But everybody was in the same boat. Everybody was the same.
At the time, did it feel like that you had it better than ever? That the hard times were when your parents were growing up, and then
Well, see, they had the Depression, actually,
I've been luckier there.
when my dad was younger, and he knew what it was like to go through the Depression. I guess we were still in the Depression, or maybe about the time we were born.
Anyway.
Well, in
So-
40 we would have been.
And so,
We
you know,
wouldn't
my
stop there and we
dad
wouldn't
knew
go
how to
to
be
the
a
shop.
very frugal in every
They had changed
which
all
way,
their
as far as, you know,
spots.
money that he spent, and
I didn't know
money that we were,
any of it. Didn't see any
we
of it.
didn't have a lot of frivolous things like kids have here.
On top of that, Mama made all of my clothes, including his shirts and Daddy's shirts.
And most of them were out of feed sacks.
Yeah.
You could get,
really feed
Well, they had
sacks.
color. They had
they had really pretty feed sacks. You could get really pretty prints. I remember several dresses that I had. And some of the quilts that Mama hand piece have pieces of the quilts that our clothing was made of.
And the feed sacks, was this for cattle or for turkeys or
No,
for?
this is like, you got flour.
Oh, I
Well,
see.
there was also feed,
Yes, and also feed sacks.
like
yes.
chicken feed. Oh, we didn't have chicken.
We have chairs. And it would
Daddy,
sit back the chair.
They sold feed. There was a pretty thriving little settlement at Polk when we were. There was a millinery shop. There were 2 grocery stores, a bank.
A little bank.
Yeah. And I don't remember the bank, but well, and the hat shop was before our time. But some of that burned. It was right there by on the side of the road across from where Grandpa Payne
I
lived.
just remember that the MFA had groceries. I didn't remember that there was another grocery store.
Across the
Later on,
street, yeah.
that was a filling station, but not when we were growing up.
Well, the people, I can't call his name, I know who it was. Anyway,
That's the
Big fish.
so Daddy would sometimes let us go
like some game.
and pick out, or Mama would go and let us pick out which feed sack we liked on the feed sack. And that she used a treadle machine, which is no electricity. It's the kind you see that has a
And that's
pedal.
how I learned to sew, was on the treadle.
You pump with your feet.
Yeah.
Well, you.
Yeah, you
So Las Vegas has
control
been
the speed, you wiggle it up and down with the treadle on your feet.
prepared.
And then we always had a huge garden. And Mama canned, no electricity, wood stove, and it was every bit as hot as it was yesterday here.
Which is about 100.
No air conditioning.
No air conditioning.
Plus, in my memory, we almost always had from 1 to 3 hired hands, and she always cooked lunch for me, on top of 5 kids. And your dad and running around, you know, whatever. And it was, I wouldn't want to go back to it, but I'm glad I lived through it, because I think it makes me appreciate. And it bothers me that people your age and younger have no idea
I was ready
what
for
it's
that.
like to do with that stuff. I mean, they don't. And if we'd have another depression like that, they wouldn't know what to do. And as a result, and I'm sure have heard this, people my dad and mom's age, people took onion sandwiches to eat to school.
Well,
And some people just ate the potato peelers and let their family have the potatoes. I mean, that was true. I've heard Daddy talk about it. And the amazing thing, the nutrition's
that
in
was
the
for
food.
that
That
was
was during the Depression.
And of course, you know, one of the things that was just almost an everyday thing was to have beans. And of course, now that we know that's one of the healthiest things you can eat, is beans.
Yeah.
When you had your garden, what were the foods that you normally grew? Did you grow like corn, for instance, and everything?
6 or 8 rows of potatoes from where the white barn was all the way out to the fence south. It's 6 or 8 or 10 rows of corn. There were green beans, peas, lots of tomatoes.
And all the vegetables. We always had like radishes and peas and corn. We need to stop.
Okay, yeah, let's take a break, and we got some more family coming in, so to be continued.
Okay.
This is golden. Thank you. Thank you.